to the grammar class. Today we are going to see adverb clauses. But Lisa, our grammar coach, is going to present this topic for us. Pay attention.
Hi, today's lesson is about adverb clauses. My friend Joshua plays college basketball for the Cougars. I went to a game last night because I had never seen him play. It was a very exciting game, as it determined which team would make it to the final championship. Although the Cougars were more than 10 points behind for the first half of the game, they caught up and won in the last 10 minutes. The crowd went wild since this was the first time the Cougars had ever made it to the final championship. Even if they don't win the championship next month, they are still thrilled to have made it this far. A clause is a group of words containing a subject and a verb. An independent clause can stand alone as a complete sentence. A dependent clause cannot stand alone. A dependent clause must have another clause to complete it. For example, in the sentence, "The crowd went wild when the Cougars won." The crowd went wild is an independent clause. It can be understood on its own. When the Cougars won is dependent. On its own, it is not a complete sentence. Sentences that contain both an independent and a dependent clause are called complex sentences. Notice in this example that there is no comma separating the clause. That's because the independent clause comes first. When the dependent clause comes first, it is necessary to place a comma after it. For example, when the Cougars won, the crowd went wild. Adverb clauses are dependent clauses that tell how, when, where, why, or under what conditions something happens. Adverb clauses may also show contrast. For example, the crowd went wild when the home team won. This adverb clause tells when. They were excited because they made it to the final championship. This adverb clause tells why. Although they were behind in the first half of the game, they still won. This adverb clause shows contrast. Adverb clauses of time indicate when something happens. The clauses are introduced by after, as soon as, before, by the time, once, since, until or till, when, whenever, and while. Once means from the moment something begins. For example, once the game started, everyone watched intently. Remember, we can never use will or be going to in a dependent clause. If the clause is in future time, use will or be going to in the independent clause and the simple present in the dependent clause. For example, once the game starts, everyone will watch intently. Adverb clauses of place indicate where something happens. They are usually introduced by anywhere, everywhere, where, or wherever. Ramsey loves to play basketball. He will play anywhere he finds a basketball court. The Cougars travel wherever they have a game. Adverb clauses of reason tell why something happens. They are usually introduced by as, because, now that, and since. The Cougars were excited because they won the game. My friend will have to train harder now that the Cougars are in the championship. Adverb clauses of condition indicate under what conditions something happens. These clauses are usually introduced by even if, only if, unless, and in case. Even if means the condition doesn't matter. The result will be the same. Even if they don't win, the team will be happy to have made it this far. It doesn't matter whether they win or not, they are still happy. Only if means that only one condition will produce the result. They will do well only if they practice every day. They will do well on the condition that they practice every day. If the sentence begins with only if, the subject and verb are inverted and a comma is not used. For example, only if they practice every day will they do well. Unless means that something will happen if another thing does not happen. For example, unless they practice every day, they will not do well. In case means in order to be prepared for something that may possibly happen in the future. I'm taking my umbrella in case it rains. Adverb clauses of contrast make a contrast with the independent clause. Adverb clauses of contrast are usually introduced by although, even though, whereas, and while. Although, even though, and though show an unexpected result. For example, even though the team was losing in the beginning of the game, they later caught up and won. While and whereas show a direct contrast. For example, while my sister is a huge sports fan, I generally don't like to watch sports. I have to go meet my friend Joshua because he's nervous about the final championship game. Actually, he gets nervous whenever he plays. I think he'll be okay as soon as the game starts. We're going to meet at his favorite restaurant since he's a picky eater. I'll wait for him there until he arrives. Bye.
Here are some charts that will help you to do your task. I hope that this will be useful for you. See you soon. Bye-bye.